Welcome back. EY Africa on Wednesday, May the 3rd, unveiled its latest Africa Attractiveness Report at the ongoing three-day World Economic Forum on Africa taking place in Durban, South Africa. The report provides an analysis of FDI investment into Africa over the past 10 years. And the 2016 data shows Africa attracted 676 FDI projects, a 12.3% decline from the previous year, and FDI job creation numbers declined 13.1%. However, capital investment rose 31.9%. Let's talk to the regional managing partner, West Africa at EY Africa, Henry Ibiki, who is presently in Durban, South Africa. Good afternoon, Mr. Ibiki. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure.
Now, at the ongoing World Economic Forum, you just released your 2016 Africa Attractiveness Report. The data shows that FDI projects declined 12.3%, FDI job creation numbers dropped 13.1%. Give us an overview of what FDI investment into Africa was like in the year under review. Was it that bad?
Thank you very much. Yes, you just quoted some of the negatives. You're right. In 2016, Africa attracted 676 projects, and that shows the decline that you mentioned earlier. It's about 12.3% decline as compared to last year. For FDI jobs created, that also declined by 13.2%, so you're quite right on that. But on the good side, you find that in terms of capital investment, which talks about the total value of investment into Africa, the investment actually went up by 32%, which is huge. And when we unpack that, you find that this was driven mainly by capital-intensive projects in two main sectors, real estate, hospitality, and construction sector on one hand, and the other sector is transport and logistics. In terms of the total share, that is the share of Africa in the total FDI capital available globally, Africa's share actually increased. Last year, Africa's share was 9.4%. This 2016, Africa's share, was 11.4%, 2% increase. And given the scenario that has played around, looking at what happened in last 1 year, actually, I think that's a good one for Africa. That also made Africa the second, fastest foreign direct investment destination globally. So I think that is good news. What we also saw in the report is the fact that Asia Pacific is becoming very bullish in investment into Africa. The investment from Asia Pacific, when you look at the total investment to Africa in 2016, investment from Asia Pacific actually accounted for, in terms of project investment, accounted for about more than 20% of that investment came from Asia Pacific. But in terms of capital investment, in fact, more than half of that, more than 50%, came from Asia Pacific. And more importantly, if you unpack that also, you saw that the investment from China, increased dramatically, actually making China the largest single investor into Africa in terms of investment capital.
All right.
We also saw that the investment, still concentrated in the large economies of Egypt, South Africa. South Africa actually controlled about 20% of the investment. Egypt, followed by Morocco, 12%. Followed by Egypt, 11.7%, followed by Nigeria, 7.5%, and Kenya, 5.9%. And I think this was quite impressive.
Okay. From what Mr. Ibiki,
strong economic headwinds that we saw blew through Africa in the last 1 year.
Mr. Ibiki, from what you have just said, South Africa remains the largest FDI hub in Africa. Now, this is despite the economic and political challenges or political uncertainties that country faces. Now, what's the attraction there for now?
I think the South Africa economy in terms of the structure, I think structurally is still a very strong economy. If you take out the political issues, it's still a very strong economy compared to the rest of Africa. You know that even though was it 2-3 years ago, Nigeria became the largest economy in terms of total GDP. But you find that in the rate, if you talk about GDP per capita, South Africa is still way ahead of Nigeria. So instead of, it's about the structural, base of the South African economy is still quite very, very strong. So that is what is driving that attraction. But you also see that Morocco, for instance, is challenging South Africa for that position. I think we just, as a country, Nigeria, even though we came fourth in that ranking, we need to deal with some structural issues. Diversifying the economy, ensuring that we're investing in the critical sectors, especially infrastructure. Infrastructure is a huge challenge, which we need to deal with in order to make our country, Nigeria, much more attractive to foreign direct investment. And issues around even regulatory framework, legal, regulatory. Those are issues that we also need to deal with. It's about doing business. So those are challenges that investors see. So we need to deal with that.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Ibiki. I'm hoping to have you in the studio as soon as you get back to Nigeria. Enjoy the rest of the day. Henry Ibiki is the Regional Managing Partner, West Africa at EY. Now, Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe caused quite a stir among fellow panelists at the World Economic Forum taking place in South Africa when he claimed that his country is the most developed in Africa after the host country. He was on the panel, the discussion Eye on Fragile States, where he insisted that his country is not a fragile state, but one among many with their respective challenges. Zimbabwe is struggling with a debt crisis, a fall in foreign exchange inflows, and acute shortages of cash that have forced banks to limit withdrawals, as well as growing resistance to his 3-decade rule.
Zimbabwe is one of the most highly developed country in Africa, and after South Africa, I want to know which country has, that level of development that you see in Zimbabwe. I don't talk of us as a fragile state from an economic point of view. Yes, we have our problems, but certainly we are achieving our problems. We have resources. Perhaps more resources than the average country in the world. This year, we'll have a bumper harvest. It's not just maize, which is our food. It's cotton, it's tobacco, it's many other crops.
Robert Mugabe, Zimbabwe's president. Well, it's on that note that we draw the curtain on today's edition of the program, and of course for the week. Thank you very much for being part of it. I'm Chimezie Zimbabwe.